All right, so a little while ago we were looking at a pinball game developed by HAL Laboratory called Revenge of the Gator. This was a really early release on the Game Boy. It came out in Japan in 1989, in North America in 1990. And I mentioned that, this was a great game. It was, cute, it was fun, it worked really well on the Game Boy. It gave you some advantage of being a video pinball game, being a video game and not, a real pinball table. It was just a perfect little Game Boy game. I really enjoyed it. And again, developed by HAL Laboratory, who went on to make the Kirby games and do some pretty amazing things with the NES hardware with Kirby and the Game Boy hardware as well, actually. And so a few people mentioned in that video in the comments that I need to check out Kirby's Pinball Land. Kirby's Pinball Land, again developed by HAL Laboratory, came out in 1993. So several years after Revenge of the Gator, but it's actually very, very similar to Revenge of the Gator. It basically plays the same. The controls are the same. The way that the screen scrolls, sort of in chunks, is the same. And it's one thing I mentioned in Revenge of the Gator. I didn't know if they did that to try and make it a little bit easier to see the Game Boy screen and not have the motion blur, panning the screen as you're trying to play. And I wondered if they did that because it was like a software programming limitation. They hadn't quite mastered smooth scrolling, especially, say, smooth vertical scrolling on an early Game Boy game. They probably started working that right at the beginning of the Game Boy launch. Or if they did it on purpose to make it easier to see. Well, I think this proves that they did it on purpose. I mean, obviously, by this point, HAL Laboratory has done the Kirby games. They could definitely do smooth scrolling on the Game Boy. And, they still went with the kind of screen just moves in chunks, the same as it did in Revenge of the Gator. But again, it works well. You do get used to it relatively quickly. And again, the controls are basically the same. So you got multiple tables here. We got like 3 tables in total, and each table, just like in Revenge of the Gator, has multiple levels. I think 3 or 4 levels, and like little bonus areas that you can go to. But in this one, they've taken everything sort of a step further. You can actually play within tables within your game, like. You have a boss fight for each table, and if you beat that boss, you can move on to another table, and you take your high score with you. So you can basically beat all 3 tables and the final boss to get the highest score. This game actually has a battery backup in it, basically just to keep track of your high score. It also lets you pause and sort of save the game if you're in the middle of a game. And, you gotta leave or whatever, you can turn off the game, you can save the game, and actually leave where you left off. So it gives you like a save feature, and it gives you, and it keeps track of your high scores in battery backup, which is surprising. I mean, I certainly wasn't expecting this to have a battery backup. I actually bought the cartridge, and the battery was dead in mine, so the save feature didn't work, and the high score feature didn't work. And I had to look it up because I wasn't sure, like, would a pinball game have a battery in it just to save high scores? Like, you got to remember, it costs developers more money to put a battery backup battery in a cartridge with the SRAM, and that's an extra chip in the cartridge. And so it's usually done with games that have to do that. It's like an RPG or a Zelda game or something like that, where you have to save your progress. It's pretty much a necessity. So they're going to spend that extra dollar to put the save SRAM chip and the battery backup in the cartridge. But usually not done in a pinball game or something, like just to save your high score. Usually these kind of games, once you turn it off, you lose your high score. But again, this has a battery backup in it. So I went and bought the proper battery this time with the tabs already, like, sonic. I think they're sonically welded to the battery. Made it really easy to just really quickly solder in a new battery. But anyways, yeah, it's basically everything Revenge of the Gator had, and more. And it works well. Hell Laboratory obviously went on to do good things with Kirby, and Kirby became a super popular character. And I think his character works in a pinball game probably better than others have. There's been other mascot pinball games that came out around the same time, but this one's actually good. As you can hear, the music in this game is great. It's very catchy, and obviously with 3 different tables, you've got 3 different songs to go with that. And again, lots of bonus levels and stuff like this, just little boss rounds to beat that table and move on to the next table. This game's actually going pretty well, a little bit better than average. I think this is going to be one of my higher scores so far. And that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes with these pinball games, it's part skill and part luck, I guess. And this one's going to go pretty well, I think. And that's about that, I guess. This is, again, a great little game. Definitely, I think, better than Revenge of the Gator in every way. Although it's newer, and it's basically the sequel. So, again, same developers, just a few years later, so really no surprise that it's better. It's just more game, and we're comparing an early, almost launch title to a much larger game with a battery backup feature, which was a surprise. So yeah, definitely worth checking out, definitely worth picking up. If you're a Kirby fan or not, if you're just a pinball fan, it's a great pinball game. If you're a Kirby fan, it's a no-brainer. Well, unless you don't like pinball games, I guess. If you like Kirby and pinball, you're going to love this one. And if you liked Revenge of the Gator, you're going to love this one. So, yeah, pick up a copy if you see it. It's generally not too expensive. I don't think I paid more than $20 for this one. And definitely worth it.